everyone, Comic Reviewer here, and this time reviewing on the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water. Now, as you know, Sponge Out of Water is meant to be the sequel and also second entry in SpongeBob SquarePants' film. So keep in mind that back in 2004 we had the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Here we've got Sponge Out of Water that was released in 2015. So pretty much what the premise of the film is about a pirate named Burgerbeard, played by Antonio Banderas, who pretty much finds a magical book that has the power to basically make things come to life by writing through. And after an incident with Plankton and SpongeBob battling over the formula, which ends up with it disappearing, which results in anarchy, chaos, and everything else. This reduces in SpongeBob and Plankton working together to set society right and to make sure to stop and to pretty much make sure to get the Krusty Krab formula back. So pretty much throughout the film, it's mostly about Plankton learning about being part of a team, and it's also about SpongeBob trying to make sure everything is quickly fixed, while other characters have gone into anarchy, chaos, and other things. So we see Gary pretty much taking over as King of the Snails. We see Sandy becoming a kind of conspiracy theorist. We see basically Patrick, Squidward, as well as Mr. Krabs and the rest of the Bikini Bottom going on Mad Max on everything. So I would say, to me, the movie does feel like it's rehashing the same plot to the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Reason why? A certain item is disappeared, characters basically go and find the artifact, basically also having the characters on land, much like the first film, and also pretty much as well, you've also have the same sort of almost similar premise, and it does feel like they rehash the same plot from the first film, but slightly alter it. I think usually if you do a sequel, you want to make sure it lives up to the expectations of the original. Which is why I do think the prequels work in Star Wars, because they have an original story they want to tell. And I do feel Toy Story has a different premise, which actually works. When films try and rehash the same plot, like, say, Jungle Book 2, the sequels to Star Wars, it sort of screws it over and tries to make you say, hey, remember this, remember that, hey, do you remember this? It's not a bad idea, and I do feel that the film does feel a bit like a TV special, and it's not really putting itself on a candle to the original. So what's interesting is that you do see Sandy pretty much in her squirrel form, which originally she was meant to appear on land back in the first film when Patrick and SpongeBob go and see her, which I still remember seeing in a deleted scene in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. So, anything else? There are these seagulls that kind of, like, ask Burgerbeard about the story and that, and what's actually interesting, in the American version, they're mainly voiced by certain actors like Kevin Michael Richardson, April Stewart, Cree Summers, Billy West, and so on. So I get it, some of them are parents, so they probably have seen SpongeBob with their kids. And I know that in the UK one, you had people like Casper Lee, Stacey Solomon, also Alan Gar, and so on. And what's interesting, in the Mexican dub, they actually had a famous team of YouTubers to voice the seagulls. So I do feel the movie does feel like there is something they want to do, but it seems like they just wanted to rehash the same plot to the first film. But it does sort of fail a bit in the description. I think usually when you do a sequel to a film, you don't want to rehash the same plot. You want to go and tell the next story onward and see where the characters come from somewhere else. So, I do feel there is a lot of good ideas, and some actors I'm quite familiar with. For example, Matt Berry, who also plays Buttwitch in 12 Forever, and also playing in Disenchantment, does the voice of Bubbles the Dolphin, which was done by stop motion and everything else. And in the end, I do think the sponge came out of water, but the water was filthy of rehashment. So I think it deserves a thumbs in the middle. Not the best, not the greatest, and not putting itself on a candle to the first films. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.